a military officer beat him to death. He left behind a 9-year-old girl, Imelda Henry, and a 6-year-old boy, Lawrence Henry. Imelda is in primary 5 and Lawrence is in primary 2. His wife, Munachim, is there at home. Munachim is not working, but she needs to take care of these 2 kids. Schools will resume very soon. They will pay fees. Who will come to their rescue? I still want to use this opportunity to reach out to non-governmental organizations. Kindly come to the aid of these people. If you're interested in helping, you can reach out to this number. However, only text messages and WhatsApp messages, no phone calls on that number. You can reach out to this number if you want to reach out to these people. 080 7644 2101. 080 7644 2101. Remember, WhatsApp messages only and text messages too. No phone calls on that line. Imelda and Lawrence will become great. They won't stop school. Somebody somewhere will help them. It's the Podium on 32 FM 94.9. Have you been following what's happening in Europe? Have you been following the energy transition in Europe? The Russian war in Ukraine has had a massive impact on the European energy market, a result of which is a runaway inflation across the continent. The bloc is now searching for alternative sources of energy. Remember, Russia has been the one supplying gas around Europe, while the stopgap measure has been a pivot to coal, which seemed to be the alternative. This strategy is likely unsustainable in the long term. Europe's solution for energy is a transition to sustainable energy generation. This means not only building out existing industries. For example, in Denmark, there's wind. They use wind in powering themselves. In France, they use nuclear energy. In Spain, it's more of solar energy. These are some examples. But also finding new partners capable of sourcing the continent. It's also welcomed by the European Union. The European clean energy sector requires a variety of resource inputs, specifically rare earth minerals, which are essential for anything from advanced ceramics to oil refining to computing. They are fundamentally indispensable in a green energy economy. While abundant, their rarity has historically been one of extraction capacity. Most of these rare earth minerals are currently being extracted from a very handful of mines in China. Yet, deposits exist in many countries. Many countries. If you come to Nigeria, Nigeria's oil rich, natural gas rich, and equipped with many of these rare earth minerals necessary for sustainable development. Nigeria boasts a large, increasingly urbanized population, as well as a stable financial hub in Lagos, and a semi-democratic government with the highest level of economic prosperity on the continent of Africa. But remember, South Africa will be exempted. Nigeria's substantial resource wealth and geographic proximity to Europe makes it a very attractive partner for meeting the continent's energy needs. Europe is in search for energy. They want to be independent from Russia. But Europe also has the potential to make it a partner in the Nigeria's economic development if truly Nigeria knows what it's doing. With a massive capital investment base and a substantial expertise in the energy market through juggernauts such as some international multinational brands. When you look at Total and Shell, Europe has the necessary elements to build out the as yet underdeveloped Nigerian energy sector. This would mean substantial economic benefits for Nigeria, building on its status as a major sub-Saharan trade hub. If you go to Enugu, you find coal in Enugu in abundance. Many years ago, during the time of the Eastern region, when Nigeria was based on true federalism, when there was this republic, 1963 precisely, the Oji River there in Enugu had coal in abundance, and that was what was powering the southeast. There's water here. The Ashejire Dam is there. Kainji Dam is there in Jeba. What is wrong? Can Nigeria be the answer to Europe's dire need for sustainable energy? Can Nigeria be the alternative? Why not export this and gain some money into the economy? I think it's high time we diversified. Instead of talking, Europe needs us now. And we need their money to boost our economy. We don't want to get broke anymore. Nigeria must not be broke. Due to these opportunities, opening up to trade with Europe has been more of a focus of the Nigerian government. Nowhere are these ties strengthening more quickly than between France and Nigeria. Let us look at the relationship between France and Nigeria. France's operations in Nigeria are expansive and have constantly grown since the election of President Emmanuel Macron in 2017. Macron spent some time in Lagos, and he views the relationship as a very key opportunity for mutual benefit. In addition to the military support provided in the context of anti-terrorism, especially the operations in the north, France also accounted for nearly 10 billion euros of direct investment in Nigeria in 2019, as well as 5 billion euros in annual trade. This makes Nigeria France's largest sub-Saharan trade partner. France is uniquely equipped for a partnership with Nigeria, as the French economy strengthens play to Nigeria's weakness. This is particularly true when it comes to agriculture. Nigeria's domestic product of food is woefully insufficient in feeding its rapidly growing population. About 80% of Nigeria's agricultural output comes from small family-owned or individual farms, subsistence farming. Nigeria is heavily reliant on imports to fill the food gap. However, France is one of Europe's largest agricultural producers, providing over 10% of the world's wheat exports, in addition to other key goods. France's agricultural sector provides enormous amount of expertise, especially regarding strategies for adapting to and addressing issues resulting from climate change. This could be used to industrialize Nigeria's largely rural and underdeveloped agricultural system. Value for value. We have coal in abundance. Give it to them. Supply energy to them. And let them come teach us how to farm. Not carrying hoes and cutlasses to the farm. I mean mechanized farming. Let me take a break here. I'll go on this break, and when I come back, we'll talk more on this. I'm not angry. I'm happy. We have something to exploit from the Europeans. Stay tuned. It's a Podium on 32 FM 94.9.
32 FM 94.9.
ẹ̀gbọ́n ìjàre ìmọ̀lẹ́ ọlọ ìjàre àti pọ̀npọ̀ kéré kalẹ̀ ọ̀dẹ̀ ní gbọ́ àfẹ́dẹ́ lọ́mì ó dà gan gbogbo rẹ̀ ló pé pérépéré.
tí olúwa nílẹ̀ àti ẹ̀kú rẹ̀.
ayé àti àwọn tó mọ̀ tán rẹ̀.
ẹlẹ́wọ̀n gbà.
kò lè má rí bẹ́ẹ̀ onírúurú talẹ̀talẹ̀ ló ń bẹ nílẹ̀ yìí ṣùgbọ́n àrà ọ̀tọ̀ ni Danabits Homes and Properties torí wọ́n fi ni lọ́kàn balẹ̀ àwọn tó ti bá wọn dòwò pọ̀ tẹ́lẹ̀ rí ni wọ́n ti lè sọ àǹfààní tó ń bẹ lọ́dọ̀ wọn àwọn ni wọ́n ń ta ilẹ̀ Victory Estate phase 1 àti phase 2 alábàtà mọ́níyà tí ò kọjá ìṣẹ́jú mẹ́ta sí railway terminal ìfà ńlá tó ni Treasure Estate tó wà ní Ìdó-Lẹ́bàá University wọ́n ń gbèrò ẹ̀ Favour Estate náà wà ní Mòwe tí ò sì kọjá agbára má sọ ọmọ ni ti Joyce Cotton Gardens tó wà níwájú Bethel American International School Ìrókò lójú ọ̀nà Ìbàdàn sílùú Ọ̀yọ́ 550,000 naira péré ni àti bẹ̀rẹ̀ iṣẹ́ lórí àwọn ilẹ̀ yìí ìrọ̀rùn ló bá dé torí owó wọn kò gara bọ́rọ̀ èèyàn bá wá níjà sí irú ti bàbá Ìjẹ̀ṣà eré tètè lọ sí ọ́fíìsì wọn ní Prime Time Plaza ọba Alẹ́ṣinlọ́yẹ́ phase 2 lẹ́bàá Bidin petrol station lálẹ́ṣinlọ́yẹ́ Ìbàdàn sanwó kó gbalẹ̀ lójú ọgán ọ̀fẹ́ sì ní corner piece lọ́dọ̀ wọn àyè san díẹ̀díẹ̀ tún wà níbẹ̀ pẹ̀lú àlàyé ẹ ṣáà ti pè wọ́n sórí 090-477-97352 tàbí 081-884-18137 Danabits Homes and Properties àwọn ni wọ́n sọ ilé kíkọ́ dìrọ̀rùn fọmọ aráyé.
Who is this one? Why are all these women always like this? What sort of nonsense is this? See, I will hit you if you don't.
Oga, will you keep quiet? Yes, I mean it. Keep quiet. Why are you transferring aggression on these innocent street sweepers? People paid very little by the government to sweep the streets, hustling people, doing menial jobs to make life easy for you and I, people that we should be hailing and pampering. Or don't you know it takes some level of commitment to do this kind of job? Some motorists drive like they want to break their legs. Some bikes will almost climb their heads. And keke drivers act as if they are invisible. You people should fear God though. Stop disrespecting our road sweepers. Once you sight them from afar, slow down and drive responsibly. In fact, it's not out of place if we can be generous to them. Do you know any sweeper in your neighborhood that deserves to be specially appreciated? Send such sweeper's name, locality, and picture to 0906 2000 949. 0906 2000 949. 32 FM is beseeching us. Let's protect the sweepers.
bá a ṣe láwọn akọ́ṣẹ́mọṣẹ́ dókítà tíṣẹ́yé bẹ́ẹ̀ náà la láwọn àwòrán àṣà mẹkáníìkì GMF Auto Services Limited bóyá ẹ̀ tí ìdébẹ̀ wò ní ọ̀jẹ̀ ẹ̀mọ̀ pọ́nmọ́nàmọ́pa àwọn erin lákàtàbù irinṣẹ́ ni ó diagnose mọ́tò yín kẹ́sẹ́ bí wọ́n ti máa fẹnu fapò sórí carburetor wait and get ni kò ní lọ kábọ̀ tí machine bá ti ń discover problem láàmú fix ẹ̀ lọ́wọ́ kan torí gbogbo original spare part ń bẹ́ẹ̀ lẹ̀ bíbá àwọn aláràlù àtàwọn aláràtúntà gan tó wá ń kó lọ́pọ̀ yanturu ṣẹ́rí pé gbogbo ń tẹ́ fẹ́ lójú kan ló wà.
Yes, so our services, the consultancy, diagnosis, key programming, transmission repair, maintenance, spare part sales, plus plenty odonge things. GMF Auto Services Limited. Pay for number 3, Oni Lane, beside White House Hotel, behind Boys High School, Labawo, Ogunpa, Ibadan.
ẹ kọ́ pé wọ́n lórí aago náà kẹ́ ẹ mọ bó ṣe wà sí 0806-634-8917 0806-634-8917 tó o bá fẹ́ kẹ́mi ọkọ̀ rí ogun GMF ni ó yàn láàyò.
You're listening to 32 FM 94.9. When the people became silent,
the government became oppressive. It's time to lend your voice to politics.
On 32 FM 94.9.
Safasa pelisizo simnyama Iwasafa Isizo saba Kavula mo Anichaleni ko Kalize Wemaye wemodo Safasa pelisizo simnyama Iwasafa Isizo saba Kavula mo Anichaleni ko Kalize Wemaye ngiyakhala Basafasa pelisizo simnyama Iwasafa Isizwe sabantu Alamula Anitshaleni nkokelize Wemaye wemodo
Welcome back from that break. Before we went on that break, we were looking at Europe's transition, Europe's energy transition, and how Nigeria can benefit from it. We should go beyond. Well, I'm not saying we shouldn't talk about politics, we shouldn't talk about 2023 elections, but there are more important things. This government should look into taking advantage of what is happening in Europe now. And let's see what we can give to them and what they can bring to us. Between a build-out of the agricultural sector through the use of French and European expertise and cooperation in energy with companies, Nigeria has the potential to become a hub of stability and economic growth in West Africa. This is something the French government has dreamt of for many years, engaging in substantial military operations to eliminate the Boko Haram terrorist network and also establish its former colonies as sources of sub-Saharan development. But that sour relation that exists between France and the West African members of the Francophonie have made further French engagement politically costly for African incumbents and French politicians. As a former British colony, entirely separate from the traditional French sphere of influence, Nigeria is positioned relatively well to shore up relations with the Western European giants. This casts cooperations with the French in a very different light, potentially allowing for a degree of mutual understanding and exchange that has proven difficult with Côte d'Ivoire or Mali. So where will this partnership come in? There are many challenges on the road to a successful partnership, the broadest of which is the fragile political stability of Nigeria. Nigeria is very, politically fragile. While the cost of highly developed and subject to renewed international attempts to clean up the light streets of piracy, the northern half of the country is supremely underdeveloped. And it will also require massive amounts of subsidies for infrastructure and also for security, without which the requisite extraction projects could not operate. Furthermore, Nigeria struggles with corruption, could compromise infrastructural development, even with large planned spending and corporate engagement from European engagements such as Total and Shell. Will keep struggling with corruption. Additionally, the Russian invasion of Ukraine has already plunged much of its continent into food shortages. This is likely to worsen as the export of fertilizer slows up, or even it might stop. Nigeria, which lacks an industrialized agricultural sector, could not be directly impacted by a collapse of fertilizer exports. Food scarcity in Nigeria's immediate vicinity, may stoke political violence in the underdeveloped north. While the combination of increasing food prices or shortages and a young population in the urban areas will serve as a recipe for increased political instability. It remains to be shown how Nigeria's democratic institutions, which are still quite young, handle mass demonstrations. I could go on and on and on. But the major point here is, how do we capitalize on the energy transition in Europe? The major supplier is Russia. Russia is in war with Ukraine. Russia has cut off its supplies of gas. Remember, winter is coming. And when it is cold, what will these countries fall back to? Especially trying to warm themselves. Many of them will need warmth. And we have coal somewhere in Enugu. Barrister Yomi Ogunlola, good morning. It's good to have you on the podium this morning.
Yes, thank you very much. It's wonderful to be back after a week's break.
Yeah. We'll still come back to your 1 week sabbatical. We'll still talk about that. But you see, Russia cutting off its supplies, Europe looking for alternative source of energy. They're trying to transit. And look at us in Africa. Not only Nigeria alone, other countries. We have what it takes. But what is wrong with us? We seem not to be looking towards that direction. All that is on our mind right now is 2023. Whose candidate is wearing this? Who wore the best clothes? Who is salvaging a party? Who is holding a party to ransom? That's what we're thinking of. Well, there is a gold mine ready to be tapped.
Waiting to be tapped. Not even ready. It is waiting. It is waiting to be tapped. I think you said it all, Chike. Indecisiveness, indifference, inertia, corruption. I think it is, and I think ignorance too. Let me add ignorance. Because if you are stealing from your country, it is like a son stealing from his father, something which is rightly his. Why do you steal what is yours? It is so unfortunate, that the kind of dexterity that one would have expected, particularly at this time, with respect to those much wanted resources at our disposal, is really unfortunate. It is very, very, very unfortunate. And the sad thing about it is those who are stakeholders do not have that kind of contrite disposition. I mean, they are not remorseful. They don't know what they're doing. They still think that, yes, they are the best thing to have happened to Nigeria since the discovery of sliced bread. And that's so unfortunate, so very, very unfortunate. Right now, like you rightly said, opportunities have opened up for Africa, particularly those that have those energy resources. We are at the latter stage of reliance on crude oil because the whole world is going green.
Yeah.
The wise countries have tapped into that knowledge, investing the bulk of their earnings, their revenue from crude oil, in opening up other sectors, enriching other sectors. Like I say, putting the sugar in other sectors, other productive sectors, I mean. But in Nigeria, we have continued to waste our money on frivolities. We have put the sugar in politics. Politics that is not earning us a dime. And that's why you find all the chaos that abounds in our space. Enugu is noted for coal. But tell me what percentage of our foreign earnings comes from coal. Even the crude oil, you can see all that is happening. Right now, Europe needs us. Unfortunately, we're not there. Why? Because the system is or has collapsed. How, for instance, can somebody be telling you that that mighty, gigantic tanker comes into our waters, sails from the high seas into the exclusive economic zone? You know the exclusive economic zone is 200 nautical miles
off the coast of Lagos.
Of our territorial waters.
Yeah.
And over the exclusive economic zone, Nigeria has sovereign rights. Over our territorial waters, we have and exercise absolute sovereignty. Now, a vessel, a tanker comes into our territorial waters, loaded with crude oil, without proper documentation as revealed by the naval officers, you know.
Customs and Navy.
Yes, and then sails out under international law. The right to board an offending ship or tanker is very well spelled out. If it is pursued from the territorial sea, it does not matter whether it gets to the high seas. The law is that it can be boarded where it has offended the laws of the land. So we don't have to wait for a tanker to get to Sri Lanka or get to Singapore or get to Canada or wherever before we know what is happening. For so long, we have been talking about stealing of crude. Up till tomorrow, the Nigerian government is yet to bring some people to book. The naval officer who granted an interview to one of the media houses talked about arresting some of them. And when they contacted NNPC that, look, what is happening? These guys don't have documentation. They immediately sent the documentation there. So if the Navy had not arrested the tanker without documentation, that is how Nigeria's money would have gone.
We just go.
Europe needs our oil now more than ever before. But we are not there to produce it. We are not there to supply it. Because some very powerful individuals are stealing it. Stealing the crude. We are stealing crude. It amazes me that people can come out and say those things. That somebody, as big as that tanker is,
somebody came to steal.
For a very long time, we had been asking the government to take a cue from America, for instance, have an equivalent of a coastal guard. But till tomorrow.
We have naval officers.
But you see, the jurisdiction of the Navy, I know the Navy is doing quite a lot, but it is not clearly spelled out as it is for a coastal guard. It is not very clearly spelled out as it is for the. I mean, I want to be corrected on that.
But recently, government Ekpomukpolo, aka Tom Polo, was given a contract to secure.
It is fraud. It is fraud.
How do you mean?
I mean,
well, he has been given the contract to secure the oil on our coast and all that.
Because they were looking for justification. They were just looking for justification to say, okay, we are not doing this alone. We are piping our crude to Niger Republic to be refined. And so we have involved you people. Why didn't they call the government of the land? Why Tompolo? Tompolo that had been declared wanted by the government.
He seemed to know the waters.
Oh, he seems to know the waters.
Yes.
That is most unfortunate.
Remember, he was a former militant.
What they're
a repentant militant.
Yeah, what they're doing is...
He has been reintegrated into the system. The same way some Boko Haram too have been reintegrated.
Good luck to them. Good luck to them. But you see, let me tell you something. If a procedure is not institutionalized, it allows for it will be like the British weather.
Setting up a bad precedent.
A terrible precedent. And that is what is wrong. That is why it is so easy to steal in Nigeria, because procedures are not institutionalized. And that is very, very wrong. We heard in this country that one president just signed it on a sheet of paper and somebody took it to central bank and the vault was opened for him. Because the procedure is not institutionalized. These are the problems we're having.
Systemic problem.
Systemic problem. And we're having, and it is killing almost everything you can imagine about Nigeria. Which is why a majority of stakeholders are now saying, and rightly so, that we should have a rethink. We should renegotiate Nigeria. How can you go and be carrying criminals to be guiding government property? I bet I didn't come by. This is sad. This is very, very sad. All right? The Nigerian government is unserious. We make the money once it comes into this economy. You know, I said something some time ago. The only reason why today Abacha is paying us from heaven is because the crude that was sold and proceeds deposited in those banks never got to Nigeria. If they got to Nigeria, monkeys, snakes, gorillas, and termites would have eaten them up.
Even birds will feast.
They don't bring the bird home, join them.
They might come. At that point, you might see birds or even squirrels coming around.
You see, the rate of diminution of Nigeria's revenue is scary. It is alarming. And without proper policing by government, government has failed in its role. Completely, it has failed. No wonder some people are labeling us, now equating us with Afghanistan. Can you beat that? Equating Nigeria with Iraq. This Nigeria, this blessed Nigeria, this great country flowing with milk and honey, and yet the people cannot take tea. Let us renegotiate Nigeria.
Not only taking tea, they can't take it in peace.
They can't even take it in peace. You can imagine. The bandits are out there angry with the system. Boko Haram is out there angry with the system. The so-called obedience are out there because a lot of people are missing the point. If you think those people you are seeing out there love obese face, you are deceiving yourself. They are, because they saw that with NSAS, they could not get what they wanted. They are using somebody's face. They don't like Obi. They know Obi is also a part of the criminal gang.
You can't be too sure.
Oh, of course, I know that. They are looking for an avenue to ventilate their anger.
You're looking at some political revolution?
Yeah, something like that. Something like that. And Nigeria is overripe for it. Professor, don't come. Me and I go fight for this studio this morning.
A failed government can rewrite its story, right?
Well, you see,
because when you fail, you can rewrite the paper.
Course.
So a failed government can rewrite its story.
There was a case of a little boy when he was in primary school, secondary school. He was a complete failure. All right? Until one day changed his fortune. And that boy graduated from the university with a first class. No man is infallible, and no nation is. All right? Yeah. But there must be that will to make positive things happen. Nigeria lacks, we are bereft of that will, particularly in the corridor of power. That's why we're in the mess we're in. Our children have been at home for going to 7 months. What kind of a country is that?
Our research institutes are on strike.
What kind of a country is that?
Okay, on the 12th or thereabout this month, it will make it a year. Research institutes have been on strike. So there are no research work done in Nigeria for the past 1 year.
Exactly. And do you know there is a prophet is even predicting now that the soldiers will go on strike. In a country like Nigeria, that may not be an impossibility.
A prophet?
Yes, a prophet.
Predicting?
Yes, so he predicted.
Professor Remi Ayede, it's good to have you on the podium this morning.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning, listeners.
Do you believe in prophecies?
Well, there are different forms of knowledge, and revelation is one of them.
A prophet predicting that the military will go on strike?
Well, that's not the basis on which we found our social science knowledge. So that's a different sphere of knowledge.
Would you call that
from what we are trained to use?
Would you call that a Sakamanje kind of social science?
No, it's not social science.
Because at the end of the day, if this happens, it means the system is grounded.
Well, I think it's a dangerous thing. I don't think it's likely to happen.
It's not. I don't think so. We don't pray it happens.
Well, you see, you may say that.
But what if it does? If it doesn't happen, what then happens to that prophet?
It's not the first time, Professor.
Is it the first time? You know something.
Would you say they didn't hear well, or they miscalculated what they were supposed to say?
No, maybe they are just
at
changed
least
their mind.
You know that one came, and he said, God revealed to him that is it the 15th? He said
it's number 16.
He said he was number.
Buhari is number 15.
Well, I don't know, but I don't. Was he a prophet?
Well, he was a prophet, big time prophet for that matter.
A prophet,
a big one.
I think he's just a pastor.
No, he's a big prophet.
A big prophet.
A big prophet.
He was supposed to be number 16.
Yes,
but I think he got only one vote.
Somebody told me that.
Did he get any vote?
It is not over till it's over.
Did he get any vote during the primaries?
0 votes. Maybe
Zero.
that's not his route.
No,
to the presidency.
maybe he didn't listen to God well.
Well, some people told me that it's not over till it's over. That we have not elected number 16 yet.
Okay.
That the field is still open.
So President Muhammad Buhari is still number 15.
Absolutely.
Whoever comes after him will still
16.
be number 15.
No.
And whoever comes after him until he comes in and becomes number 16.
What kind of arithmetic is that?
That is a prophetic arithmetic. It's still the Podium on 32 FM 94.9, the station where joy resides. Reaching us now, it says the ADC, African Democratic Congress, has suspended its presidential candidate, Dumebi Kachiku, over defamatory video some days to the beginning of campaigns ahead of the 2023 elections. This might spell doom for the party. Well, it's not what we are here for this morning. We'll go on a break, and when we come back, Professor Remi Ayede is here, Barrister Yomi Ogunola is here. Federal government versus ASU. Will it ever end? We'll get to talk about this after this break. Stay tuned and don't go away.
Phones, accessories and training center. Àwọn làgbọ̀ ọ̀jẹ̀ níbi kábàánì tún ẹ̀rọ ìbánisọ̀rọ̀ ẹni ṣe. Irúfẹ́ ẹ̀rọ ìbánisọ̀rọ̀ wo ló ń fún yín ní wàhálà tí ò jẹ́ rí mú mi? Ìlànà akọ́ṣẹ́mọṣẹ́ pẹ̀lú ẹ̀rọ ìgbàlódé la fi ń ṣiṣẹ́ tiwa. Phones repair and unlock. Phone accessories. Gbogbo pẹ̀lú owó pọ́kú tí ò gani lára. Àǹfààní tó wà fún gbogbo ẹni tó bá nífẹ̀ẹ́ sí ìdánilẹ́kọ̀ọ́ lọ́dọ̀ tiwa. Bí wọ́n bá tún farabalẹ̀ kọ́ṣẹ́ tó ti hàn mọ́ṣẹ́. Àwa gan la tún yaṣẹ́ fún wọn láti lè wà láàyè ara wọn. Má wulẹ̀ yọ̀ǹda fóònù rẹ fáwọn tí ò lẹ́kọ̀ọ́ ìbánisọ̀rọ̀ títún ṣe mọ́. Kàn sí wọn ní Phones accessory and training centers. Kí wọ́n bọ́ sọ fóònù rẹ dọ̀tun. nọ́mbà 35C Naipo shopping complex ládojúkọ Cocoa House nìbàdàn. gẹ́lẹ́tẹ̀ bá ti wọlé lẹ́yìn tí kàn sí wa ní ṣọ́ọ̀bù àkọ́kọ́ tó wà lápò ọ̀tún yín. bó bá sì jẹ́ ládojúkọ police station tó wà ní Naipos railway station nìbàdàn ni. shop number 1 la wà lórí òkè àkọ́kọ́ tó wà ní Naipos gangan. ẹ lè pè wọ́n sórí ẹ̀rọ ìbánisọ̀rọ̀ yìí 070-643-68169 tàbí 080-969-57878. ẹ dán wa wò lónìí kẹ́ ẹ lè rí yàtọ̀ tí ò lẹ́lẹ́gbẹ́.
Ọlọ́run Táíwò Òjó bàbá ìsọjí orí afẹ́fẹ́ ó ṣe tó fẹ́ tú gbogbo èèyàn sílẹ̀ nínú 72 hours with God September edition.
Mo já lọ bẹ̀ tú mi sílẹ̀ Jésù.
Let my people go. Jẹ́ kí àwọn èèyàn mi ó lọ́la kò rí 72 hours tó ṣù kẹsàn-án látọjọ́ Friday náà ní Sunday 11th September. Àwọn èèyàn tó máa bọ́ lọ́wọ́ ogun. Ọkùn ìdè gbogbo máa já pàràpà. Ìwọ máa bọ́ nínú ìdè. Ọ̀pọ̀ ìránṣẹ́ Ọlọ́run ní Jésù máa lò pẹ̀lú àwọn olórin ẹ̀mí Bùkọ́lá Adé Ṣẹ́wọ́lẹ̀ Jésù. Ìlàjà Akíntúndé Ọlọ́run Sọ́bẹ̀. Ṣọlá Lindsay. Kẹ́ńgà Jídára. Olúṣọlá Oyèlékè. Bàbá ìsọjí orí afẹ́fẹ́ Prọfẹ̀t Táíwò Òjó. Bàbá máa pàṣẹ ìtúsílẹ̀ látọjọ́ Friday náà. Bàbá ti wọnú àdúrà láago 9 òwúrọ̀. Kùtùkùtù lọ́jọ́ Monday la máa ṣe orí ọ̀fẹ́ o. Láti wọ́rọ̀ tó bá sì jẹ́ ìpínlẹ̀ Ọ̀ṣun. Òṣègèrè ní CAC Mẹ́síkà. Tí máa jẹ̀mú àánú ni ẹ máa bọ̀. 08050275779. Gbogbo èèyàn ní Jésù máa tú sílẹ̀. Kò yá ní Mẹ́síkà.
Are you ready?
When we look at the horizon, we see our followers. And as we keep looking, we are inspired to keep moving. To you all, we say thank you. For our followers on Facebook, you are the best. To those on Twitter and Instagram, we love you. And to our YouTube subscribers, we throw you salute. For those who are yet to join us on the flight, we know you are waiting. So catch us live on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at 32FM 949 Ibadan. And to subscribe to our YouTube channel, it is at 32FM 949 Ibadan. You are the real heroes. Once again, we say thank you.
32 FM 94.9.
When the people became silent,
The government became oppressive. It's time to lend your voice to politics.
On 32 FM 94.9.
Safa sapeli sizo simnyama. Iwasafa. Isizo saba. Kavula mo. Aniteleni ko kelize. Wemaye wemodo. Safa sapeli sizo simnyama. Iwasafa. Isizo saba. Kavula mo. Aniteleni ko kelize. Mayengakhala Basafasa Pelisizwe Siyama Iwasafa Isizwe Sabantu Alamula Aniteleni Ko Kelize Wemaye Wemodo.
Welcome back. It's the Podium on 32 FM 94.9, the station where joy resides. Barrister Yomi Ogunlola. Now it's time to talk about your 1 week sabbatical. You went to Lagos, and it was a refreshing time for you.
Oh, yes, wonderful time.
Despite the fact, okay, you showed us some pictures, but you hid some other pictures.
You mean the other side of the bed?
Well, I don't know. Zazaru.
Omo. Nkan loja.
Bro, speaking. Bye. All right, in Lagos during the week, it was all about women's sexual and reproductive rights. Related to multiple human rights, including right of life, right to be free from torture, right to health, right to privacy, the right to education, and it goes on and on and on and on like that. But briefly, let's tap some knowledge from you. What was it all about?
Thank you very much. Actually, it was all about, like you rightly said, the rights of women. Sexual and reproductive rights of women. The generality of the people will understand it as the right to abortion and all that. You know that the Nigerian law is very, very strict on abortion. the only condition for which the law allows a woman to exercise that choice is when the life of the mother is at risk. But we have seen what is going on around the world, particularly in Nigeria. Look at the cases of women who are raped by bandits, women who are raped by Boko Haram insurgents and all that. We have seen several cases of incest where a father impregnates the daughter and stuff like that. So the question we're asking is, shouldn't those women or ladies who have been subjected to such torture have the right to choose whether to keep the bandit's baby or whether to keep the insurgent's baby, the terrorist baby, or whether to keep her father's child in her womb? That's what it is all about. And you see, if you look at Ghana, for instance, the Ghanaians have modified their law such that right now, the only exception is not limited to the right of the life of the woman being at risk. You now have a case of rape and incest added to it. And don't forget that the African Charter on Human and People's Rights has a very well-founded provision on sexual and reproductive rights of women, because it takes it a little bit further by providing for the physical and mental health of the woman as some of the considerations to exercise that choice. And there is a protocol, a Maputo Protocol, and that is where our focus really went. The Maputo Protocol is one that came in furtherance of the provisions of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, particularly on sexual and reproductive rights. Nigeria ratified that protocol, but the National Assembly has failed to domesticate it, and that has been quite worrisome. So what we are saying, well, we are majorly pro-choice, that the woman should have a choice, especially in view of the situation we now find ourselves, where our women are raped on the farms, you know, kidnapped and raped by bandits and terrorists and what have you. There's a case in Ogun State right now of a father who impregnated the daughter. And we are saying that a woman should have a right to choose. Yes, Roe and Wade has been overruled in America. It has been set aside. What they did in America, the Supreme Court only removed the right as a constitutional right. It can be a statutory right now, all right, getting its life from state legislation and all that. So we are asking the Nigerian government to have a rethink and look into the books and see what, you know, we can get out of it. Lagos State government attempted to bring in a guideline for the medical personnel engaged in things like this. It sets out a procedure, a guidance on how to go about it. But you saw the kind of overwhelming rejection of the guidelines by the people. So we are thinking of educating the people to know why it is very necessary to have a relook at the issues bordering on the sexual and reproductive rights of women.
You know, sometimes you want to ask this. It's a very good move. However, have you considered militating factors such as cultural and traditional limitations?
Yes, we did that. We did that. But even in Africa, I think a couple of days ago, a seller was arrested in one of the markets in Ogun State selling herbs for abortion. All right? So, and they were arrested. That tells you that even culturally, it is recognized, all right? And the fear is this, why we are saying government should have a relook at it, because if you close the doors to orthodox medicine, the people will find something else. And of course, you know the consequences, because the number of deaths arising from all of these, illegal abortions is rising by the day. If you don't give them on the official level, people will go for it underground.
Through the back door.
Through the back door. And the consequences are grave, for the nation.
All right, Prof, you want to chip in one or two?
Well, I think Barrister assumes that people opposed the protocol and guideline provided by the Lagos State government because they lack knowledge or they are ignorant. I don't share that view.
No, that is not my position.
Okay, because you were providing a solution as in educating the people, on the value of that guideline protocol, exactly. As if that's the base. So, but I think that everything has both advantage and disadvantage.
That is true.
And the general tendency in Nigeria is to try and prevent the widespread use of abortion. People, it's so easy to procure. And people actually procure it, as you said, illegally. You can imagine what happens if it's open and free. They will put it in our faces. They can even say, I am 18, I'm 20, I can do what I like with my body. And these are the challenges that people are worried about. In the second way part is to also say, what is the level of enforcement of all this regulation in any case? Why is it so important for us to say the exceptions are not sufficient, therefore we should throw it open? I will agree if you say, okay, let's add a few more exceptions, like you said they've done in Ghana. Yeah, but to say we should just make it legal. That would be a great challenge.
Even I think in some laws, the abortion is looked at from 3 angles. For instance, we now know that until 4 weeks, there is no life.
That's actually debatable. Yeah, because some medical schools don't agree with that.
No, because
they believe that the very day moment a fetus is fertilized, life begins. So
our position is this: what brings about life is the heart, and the heart is not formed until after 4 weeks. It is on the 4th week that the heart is formed, and that is when it starts to beat. So there are arguments on that side that if it is within that trimester, then why should the law forbid it? For instance, look at the cases of these bandits, especially the bandits. There is a video that if I show you now, even you will encourage termination of pregnancies even at the 2nd trimester. Badly formed fetuses and all that.
You see, the argument you are putting forward, it doesn't address the fundamentals that the pro-life people talk about. I mean, Helen Paul is a product of rape. So the argument is not just about whether when life begins or where the life does not begin. Those are technical matters which the medical people can continue to debate. Because, life can be created now from cells of the human body. So it's a very, very technical matter. But the question is, if it has happened, what guarantee do you have that the outcome in the life of the product of that unfortunate intercourse will be a menace to society or will not lead to good?
Exactly, and that is why.
Because sometimes, the person can become president and do well.
Yes.
So why do you want to terminate? So that's the argument from.
Sorry, I want to correct.
Sorry, but there's just
said it's an unfortunate intercourse.
Yes, it's unfortunate.
I don't want to believe that because it's a matter of choice.
No. It's not the choice case we are talking about. We are talking about rape. No, it's not a matter of choice.
To it?
No, it's not a matter of rape.
Where's the choice there?
There's no choice in rape.
In rape, what choice does a woman have? She was overpowered.
She was overwhelmed. If she's a victim of bandit or Boko Haram, no, it's not. There's no choice there.
So, and that is why the African Charter on Human and People's Rights talks also about the physical and mental health of the mother. All right, of the carrier. Let me not say the mother, of the carrier of the pregnancy, because some will be so mentally disturbed, so mentally traumatized that when the baby is born, she would even want to do
That's also true. But there are alternatives to abortion. People can talk about psychological support, emotional support, all kinds of support that can be provided for victims.
In a country where those who are physically,
economically
okay are not cared for by government.
If you want to use the poor state of the Nigerian state or something to decide on anything, we will forfeit everything human.
I agree. I do believe that it is very, very necessary that there still be that control. And we are talking about that control.
Absolutely.
It is not going to be an absolute right. All right? And that is why the law is limiting it. What we are saying is now the law has allowed a woman that choice if it is at the risk of her life. But we're also saying, please consider, like the African Charter on Human and People's Rights has brought other considerations like the physical and mental health of the woman. Of course, it's a question of argument when we go to court to show you how it affects a woman physically or mentally.
Yeah.
And we're saying, since the Ghanaians have done it, why not Nigeria? Why not add rape and incest, to the list of exceptions, and it will go a long way, So we're not asking for an absolute law that will make it turn it into a Jankara kind of thing, but we're saying that in view of the circumstances we find ourselves, we can at least consider these other options, and especially given the fact that the Maputo Protocol was ratified by the Nigerian government. Why is the National Assembly delaying its domestication? Because that will help in our jurisprudence a great deal.
But the point you have made yourself, the people are opposed to it. I mean, majority of Nigerians, though they may be involved.
Not majority of Nigerians.
If it's not majority of Nigerians, why is it difficult for them to take the decision? Yeah. Because if a significant number of members of the National Assembly,
it is the faith-based
have a buy-in.
Are
they not the one in charge of most Nigerians? The religion is the main industry in Nigeria.
That's the biggest, if not one of the biggest.
But not all Nigerians are Muslims and Christians. But do you know something?
It's not only Muslims and Christians.
I read a write-up by a very fantastic Islamic scholar who opined that the Quran does not have any provision forbidding abortion. Even the hadith.
That's the opinion of that scholar.
I don't want us to go. I don't want us to
theologians
go now
who make similar arguments, but that's not the position of any church.
I don't want us to go. I don't want us to go religious now for some obvious reasons. However, like Prof was trying to say, the majority of the people representing Nigerians are in the National Assembly. So if they have refused to do this, I believe they're speaking for Nigerians. Majority of Nigerians.
You know something.
I believe that's the point.
CHIKE, I'm making. You know something. I think the problem really is that, and I don't pray it, that people experience it. The one who wears the shoes knows where it pinches. If a man's daughter has been raped, I'm very sure, even if he's a theologian, he will probably have, to reconsider, and look at things.
There are non-theologians whose daughters have been raped and they kept the pregnancy.
But these things can be avoided, right? So we should champion a cause saying say no to rape.
prevent.
No, I agree with you.
Because if rape can be
seriously,
rape can be,
I think it is a failure
limited.
of government. A failure of government. I was watching a news item yesterday on France 24, where they were talking about the punishment for rapists. They were talking about chemical. What do you call it? I can't remember now.
Okay.
But it was another form of that. It would
decapitate the person and make it impossible for him.
So, but we are very slow. The Nigerian system is really very slow. The legislature is not moving, with events as they're unfolding in Nigeria, and that's a big negative.
Probably the agenda is different from the main agenda.
Victims,
So let's move on to this point.
We need a legislature that will be very, very responsive.
Absolutely.
Responsive to the yearnings and aspirations of the people. We're lacking that for now.
That's why we are still on strike.
So we're going there now. As a luta continua for ASU, is Victoria Asata? At this point, who is to be blamed? What is the fate of the Nigerian student? The dispute between the federal government of Nigeria and the academic staff union has lingered for months, causing a pause in academic activities and disrupting the academic calendar of Nigerian students. However, Nigerians are now backing the federal government in implementing the Integrated Personnel and Payroll System, IPPIS. Concerned by the long hold in academic activities, especially after a long holiday due to the COVID pandemic, stakeholders are backing the government to implement the IPs in place of the University Transparency and Accountability Solution, UTAS, proposed by ASU. What is IPPIS all about? In case you don't know, the IPPIS system, which is the Integrated Personnel and Payroll System, is a centralized payroll platform by the federal government that helps the government plan and manage the payroll budget whilst also ensuring there's no loopholes in disbursement of payment. It was instituted in 2007. The platform's data is used by the body responsible for the payment of salaries and wages directly to the employee's bank account with the necessary deductions such as taxes, insurance, and all made automatically. However, University Transparency and Accountability Solution, UTAS, is a payment system created by ASU for the federal government to use to pay its members' salaries. Many people have gone on social media to complain. One of them is, his handle on Twitter is @Farouk_C. Farouk is saying there is no justification whatsoever for ASU to continue fighting off IPs. Nowhere does an employee force a payment platform on his employer for their allowances and wages increment. I'm totally backing them to fight for it. Federal government must find a way to pay them up. Jomamit_ said, one of the problems with us in the country is that no one is clean and we don't feel bad about our own dirt. I still blame the government, though. It's their job to maintain law and order and show they can be trusted. ASU should accept the payment system the government is proposing. Ade_Nurian said, some of you are dishonest citizens. We all know ASU is holding federal government to ransom, but you all heap the blame on the federal government despite ASU's padding of his workforce and salary and refusal to join IPPIS because of its greed. Why should a lecturer work in 5 universities when we can employ more lecturers? Many messages on social media. But here, the question is this. Is ASU justified with the strike? Let me start with you, Barrister. Because I know Professor Ayede is here, ready for you this morning. But is ASU justified by the strike? Let's start from there first.
Okay. You see, if you ask me that question, I doubt if I'll be able to provide a straightforward answer to it. All right. The fact is because ASU premised its strike on the reluctance of government to honor a gentleman's agreement. all right, and which was, of course, not completely wrong, even though I faulted it, that ASU appears not to believe in the courts, because not to believe in the courts, and is therefore resorting to self-help. If there is an agreement that was entered between the federal government and ASU, the system provides an avenue for the enforcement of that agreement, and that cannot be done in isolation of the courts, or alternatively, the new system of alternative dispute resolution. ASU, in my understanding, did not embrace that. And because they did not embrace that, they resorted to self-help. So it is justified in a sense, and I think along the line it was abused. Why do I say it was abused? When ASU went on this strike, they told us they want the government to respect the agreement of 2009. And they hinged their resumption on governments respecting the agreement. But somewhere along the line, they appear to have changed the goalposts when they brought the issue of salaries to be paid for the period they have not worked.
No, we'll get there. We'll
Okay.
get there.
So if you ask me,
Yeah.
I think it's a mixture of the two. They had justification and they did not have justification. Why? Because for a very long time, ASU has been embarking on strikes since 1974, I guess. And one would have expected that by today, ASU would have gone outside the box and be thinking of other alternatives to funding of education in Nigeria rather than relying solely on the federal government. So if you look at it, both sides have their issues, but I think Prof would, he's in trouble today because
I'm not in trouble
He's
at
their
all.
representative on our podium this morning.
I'm not in trouble at all.
Okay, Prof, the federal government seemed to be lackadaisical, if I must say, with the agreement.
Yeah, you know why?
Yeah.
Because they think that Nigerians like governments that are irresponsible. Take a situation, like a family situation, which somebody does use to represent the story, that a father provides no food for her children.
Yeah.
The children left home hungry. Everyone blames the children for crying for food and asks them to return home, as is their father. No one tells their dad that not providing food is child abuse. They argue that the children should know they have a wicked father. The father is too wicked to change. The children should just go back home hungry. That's the situation we find ourselves. You see, Barrister was saying something about the courts and all of that. You must understand that we operate an industrial relations system where unions and their employers negotiate. And we describe that process as the process of collective bargaining. Whether in private sector, whether in public sector, but collective bargaining is the principle. Now, it's when bargaining fails, then you talk about arbitration, you talk about mediation, you talk about conciliation, then you now talk about the industrial court. You can see the process.
Yes.
So you don't just jump to the court.
To the courts.
Now, what you expect is that there will be collective bargaining. Now, what I've just described is what we call bipartisan. There is tripartisan. We assume that, one, there are three legs in any economy.
Yes.
You have the workers, you have the employers, then you have government. Government it plays two roles. Government is also an employer, but it's also the regulator.
Yeah.
So if there is even a problem between an employer and an employee operating in employee unions, operating in the private sector, government is supposed to be able to intervene and reconcile them for the sake of the smooth running of the economy, because government is not even supposed to sit down and allow strike to paralyze the economy because one union and another employers association are having problem. That's how important government is. So government is both an employer and also government is also a regulator. So now it is not just that we are employees of government. Government also regulates the relationship between us and them. So government in that particular case has special advantage. And responsible government will not allow certain things to happen. You understand? Yeah. So when you look at what this government has allowed to happen, you wonder what's really going on. Take, for instance, the whole question of the 2009 agreement. It's not like we are saying enforce the content of that, the entire content of that agreement. That agreement has certain aspect that has already been done. The requirement is that every three years, you renegotiate it. That's where we are when we talk about 2000, because salary adjustment is something that goes on forever. That's why this conflict is bound to your core. And that's why the institution of collective bargaining is in place to ensure that it doesn't lead into industrial action. Now, but when you have a government who, after 3 years, refuses to renegotiate, 6 years, 9 years, 13 years, 14, he has refused to come back to the negotiating table. That's the first problem you have. Now, we pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed, and I can give you the timeline. By 2020, okay, they agreed that, okay, after strike, that they will go to the negotiating table. And then we had all of those negotiations, and by about June or so last year, an agreement was reached. And what was expected is that the government team will take the agreement to the draft agreement to the ministry and say, this is, give us government's position on this negotiated draft agreement. You understand? Yes. And then the government does nothing. We kept waiting and waiting and waiting for the government to get the government official response and position on the matter, or whether they are going to say, okay, what this our team has negotiated is too much. Let's go back to us and say, look, we can't afford this. Nothing happened.
Well, now, Prof.
Since May 19, 2021.
Okay, now, Prof.
You understand?
Okay.
And then we went back to them, pressing and pressing and pressing. Even the external bodies, like the National Council on Interreligious Peace, they intervene in the
matter.
Yes. And the government still did not act. We postponed the strike. And then, you understand, so by February, we decided, okay, we have to go on a warning strike.
Yeah, February 14.
February 14, in the hope that will force the government to pay attention to us, which is our legitimate right.
Okay, Prof.
Right in a relationship, which I think also need to emphasize that all unions across the world have a right to strike.
Now,
you understand?
Prof, I want to ask you particularly on this.
Yes.
You know, I mentioned something earlier.
Yes.
Now, ASU has been embarking on strikes since 1974.
That's right.
Very good. Now, don't you think?
And it's not only ASU.
No, let me.
Unions of the world have been using strike.
I know.
Since the beginning of capitalist industrial relations.
Wait, you know, there was something I read.
Yes.
Somebody was making a submission.
Okay.
That ASU are like civil servants, but he came in and corrected them that ASU are not civil servants.
Yes.
They are greater, than just civil servants.
Yes.
So I don't want us to compare ASU to maybe the other unions, because that is where knowledge, wisdom, and understanding resides, in the citadel of learning.
Okay.
Now, but since 1974, don't you think that this option of strike has become sterile? Why is ASU not thinking?
The only problem I have
box?
is to assume that the only approach we have used is strike only. That's not very correct. In fact, in this current process of strike that we are in the negotiation, even the Minister of Labour described himself as a conciliator. But has he ever spoken in the media as a conciliator? So, and I described the processes of industrial, the basis of interaction is collective bargaining. And is the standard process of interaction in any relationship between employer and employee all over the world. and it is established under the auspices of the International Labour Organization, and go around. There's no system without bargaining. You understand? So when you say strike, it means that bargaining has failed.
Okay, then let me ask you this then.
Okay.
What role, if any, have the courts in...
I've also tried to explain that part,
conflict?
that, the court is the last resort.
Okay.
It's not the first port of call, because the nature of collective agreement, some of them, they are very limited extent of enforceability. If you look at the decisions of the national, that's why we don't go to regular court. It's the National Industrial Court that is specifically established for that purpose.
Has ASU gone to that court yet?
We are not. We don't have to go to that court, because we are not at that point of going to court. You have to exhaust the process of bargaining, go to arbitration, go to conciliation, before you resort to court.
So,
why it is not only ASU that can go to court.
No,
the government can also go to court.
What I am saying is this.
Yes.
What I'm saying is this. Shouldn't the court be before strike?
No. That's not. In fact, the only power that we have is to go on strike to press our point. You can't go to court and say the federal government should come and negotiate with us when the negotiation is already ongoing. Why would you have to do that? And the only way you can also ask them to go to court, in Nigerian court, and then in 2 years the court has not decided.
It might even be worse than this.
You understand? So why are you talking as if we are in Nigeria? You go to court, and then the government is in control of the court. The government appoints.
It is the position of the law as it is.
That's not the position of the law. The position of the law is that we can't go on with collective bargaining. That's the process. And it's not the industrial. That's why I say industrial relation is a special kind of relation, for which even a special court is established. We are talking. We are not. It's not a civil case. It's not a criminal case.
Yes.
It's not. It's an industrial relations case.
The National Industrial Court is a specialized court.
Yes.
For labor-related.
That's what I'm saying. And there are processes before you go to the industrial court.
Why didn't ASU take the agreement to the court?
I don't understand why you insist that we must go to court.
Because Barrister is a lawyer.
Absolutely.
So we have to go on this
so that we
break.
can hire him and he can make money that we don't have.
So we have to go on this break. And when we
want
come
us to
back,
hire you with resources that we don't have.
Let's go on this break. And when we come back, you still answer Barrister's question.
No, I will. Because a barrister he doesn't understand that the government has two positions. He's the regulator and he's also the employer.
32 FM 94.9. Ìkànnì tẹ́gbẹ̀ ń jí sòrò ẹ̀.
Ó ti yá o, ètò yáyá máa bọ̀, Ọlọ́run bàbá àdúrà AK-47 ló ń pè wá o, síbi ìpàdé àdúrà wákàtí ẹ̀mí mímọ́.
Bẹ́ẹ̀ni o, gbogbo Ìbàdàn àtàgbègbè ètò yáyá jáde ẹ̀ máa bọ̀. Ọlọ́run ló pa aláṣẹ fún òní rẹ̀. Prọfẹ̀tì Kélé Bolúládé bàbá àdúrà AK-47 láti gbé pàdé àdúrà ọlọ́jọ́ kan ṣoṣo ìkàlẹ̀ ní gbòòrò ìlú Ìbàdàn. Ọlọ́run ní kí wọ́n súre dá òróró lé gbogbo ènìyàn lórí. Genesis Hall Challenge Ìbàdàn ló ti máa wáyé. Lọ́jọ́ Thursday September 8 ọdún yìí. Láàrin aago 8 òwúrọ̀ sáago 11 àárọ̀. Wákàtí ẹ̀mí mímọ́ la kò rí ẹ̀. Olórin ẹ̀mí lọ́jọ́ yẹn níbi sí aláwìyé àlùkò. Àti Nàìjíríà Akétúndé Ọlọ́run ò sọ bẹ́ẹ̀. Sọ èmọ́ pọ̀lọpọ̀ àwọn ìrìnsẹ̀ Ọlọ́run alààyè tó máa wà ń bẹ̀. Wákàtí mẹ́ta gbáko nínú àtàmátàsí àdúrà lọ́jọ́ yẹn. Ẹ tún máa pàdé bàbá àdúrà AK-47 lórí Facebook. Láàrin aago 6 sáago 7 láàárọ̀ àtàlẹ́. Fẹ́kúnrẹ́rẹ́ àlàyé ẹgbẹ́ 0806-648-1455 tàbí 0904-395-9947. Jésù retí rẹ o. Jájọ pàdé níbẹ̀.
32 FM 94.9.
All right, welcome back. For the sake of time, let's get it running. Before we went on that break,
yes,
Barrister asked you, Prof,
that we must go to court.
He said, why don't you go to court?
And I said, that's not the process. You don't go to court without resorting. The court will tell you, go back to the bargaining table. You understand? And we don't have to be going back and forth and go to a court process that can also be manipulated. So the point that we are in fact saying is that there is a procedure and we are following that procedure.
Are you saying ASU does not believe in Nigeria, does not believe in the system?
In fact, that's actually where I'm going. That if you understand how the system works, you will know that there are processes through which you can address the government at both levels. And Nigerians don't want to address the government at both levels. One, government as in charge of the economy, government as in charge of the university, and then government also as owners of most of the universities. You understand? So government has those two roles.
Okay.
And one with the first role is that government can use one role to bolster its position on the other role and make nonsense of it. Now you are saying we must go to court. That is not a problem. You understand? It's not even a question of believing in the court process. But you forget that that is not the first call. The first call is that you go to the bargaining table. And if you go to the bargaining table, the only weapon you have to force a government to go to the bargaining table is the strike. Now, if you tell, and the reason why that is possible is because that strike now puts pressure on the government.
No, why are you going back
now,
to... Why
now
you,
because
why
if you talk about the court, because we have to, that's the procedure.
You already have an agreement.
No. See, discussion, bargaining goes on forever.
Oh, that's true.
And it is required that it's just like saying, why are we bothering ourselves about election? Let the courts be deciding who is the winner of every election
Primary,
that is conducted.
But
we are saying it is improper for the outcome of election to be determined by the court. So in this particular case, the process of reaching an agreement or implementing an agreement is through collective bargaining. You are saying why by emphasizing collective bargaining, just be going to the court.
So are you saying?
So that's a contradiction.
So are you saying in essence that strikes will continue to be a weapon?
No, it's a standard weapon in the hands of all unions. Any form of employer relationship,
irrespective of
for
the damage,
what the unions
irrespective of the damage it does to
now,
the rest.
and that's the second responsibility of government. It's
Okay,
the responsibility of government to ensure that those kind of strike don't happen. And the government has the power and the capability to prevent this kind of strike. And that's actually the point from the story that I started with. That you have a father who is irresponsible, and you are telling us that, yes, we know he's irresponsible, and he cannot be responsible. We should just do things
just manage
to satisfy him.
Okay, let's listen to the ASU national president speaking on the demands of ASU. Let's listen to him.
Can they provide evidence that they have agreed on one? A written evidence they have agreed on one issue. When you go to other country, in UK this year, the lecturer was on strike. The government interceded immediately and resolved the issue. Yesterday, the people in electrical, which affected were including those who are in power, when it affected them, they interceded immediately and resolved it. When those those who are involved in airline were planning strike, they got involved immediately and settled it. But when involved education, the key to all of them, 6 months they didn't come to resolve any issue. Why? All those things I have mentioned affect them directly, but education does not affect them because their children are not here. That's the only reason. 2, what the barrister said is not very true. We have taken the system to even Supreme Court. Our colleagues in Ilori, when the 49 of them were sacked for going on strike, remember, salary withheld and they were sacked. And we won in the Supreme Court that the money, all the past were paid to them. So it's not correct. It's not correct. So let's get it right. We have a Supreme Court judgment. So it's not correct. 2, we are different from other unions. If the government pushes us to the end, what do? We will resume. But we must start from 2012, 2022, 2023 session. 221, 222, 220, we were allowed to go. The student can go and register anywhere. And then we go on because we can't go and do the work we have, the work we have that are accumulated, for which we are not going to be paid, that can go. That is where it is. You see, what we have in this country that we come in here and we do things to see how we can oppress the ordinary Nigerian. If our universities are good, just like every other university in the world, are competitive as a university institution, how come you don't have foreign students coming to Nigeria? How come you don't have foreign lecturers coming to Nigeria while we are flying away? That is the question we should ask ourselves. In the 70s, 80s, early 90s, you have foreign lecturers, foreign students in our universities. But today, because of what we have done to the system, the universities are dead. The primary school, secondary school are dead. public. Is that what we want? Is that what the country we want? That we have university that cannot compete with anyone in the world? A university cannot have a foreign student? I mean, we are busy spending 1.something trillion naira, 1.6 trillion annually to pay school fees in that country, and we cannot get 200 billion naira to revamp our own. If we let down this guard, if we stop this struggle, I can assure you, in the next few years, this situation you have today will be a minor thing. Because what it means, if you start paying school fees, 1 million, 3 million, 5 million as school fees to public university, when you have kids, the way they keep primary secondary school, 60% of Nigerian parents and their children cannot go to universities. And that is what we are talking about. And this is started in 2009, this agreement. We have reached 5 memoranda of action on how government will implement, and they will renege and push us into a strike. And you think you can resolve it by saying, stop strike. We will not.
All right, you listen to the ASU national chairman there. Okay, you want to react quickly?
Yes, there are a couple of things I am going to fault in his submission.
Okay.
It is becoming very evident, that the issue of the underfunding of universities in terms of infrastructure, research facilities and the rest of the stuff appears to be a smoke screen, put up by ASU, that the main issue is about the money that is coming to ASU. Otherwise, ASU would not have brought this issue of payment of salary for job not done into the issue. It appears they are they want to hold the government by the jugular, telling us that they will not teach for 2020, 2019, 2020, and the rest of the stuff. That is number one. I think it is really, really saddening. It is saddening for the leadership of ASU to be asking the same government it is asking to obey a law to disobey an extant law. It is saddening.
We'll get to that extant law because it's going to be a different topic entirely.
Beautiful. Now let me go on with my submissions. He made a comparison between the universities in the UK, and the resolution of their conflict with their government. Has he bothered to find out how the university system in the UK is funded? All right, because there was a decree that was signed by Abacha, about this 1% deductions from the company tax to be paid into a specialized account for purposes of education. Whatever happened to that? Why is ASU not fighting about that specially dedicated account?
Probably that specially dedicated account has not been found.
So
maybe it has not been found.
So wait, the money is state fund now.
Maybe it has not been released.
No. They don't have problem with that. The money is there, and they spend it.
What are they using it for? Well, now a lot of people are talking about autonomy for the universities. Why are they not looking at that? Why should Obafemi Awolowo University be paying the same salary for a professor who is in Lagos, when they have a governing council? There are so many issues tied to this stuff. And we are saying that ASU has not explored all the possibilities available. It is just saying, look, let's go to government. Everything has to be government. And we are saying, no, seriously.
Okay, who owns the schools with these ASU members?
It is immaterial.
Can I just come in?
Who is the employer?
Let me tell you this. Let me tell you this.
Yeah. Can I come
look
in?
At the no. Just hold on.
Yeah.
Before, look, the National Universities Commission. Is peopled by ASU members, isn't it? And every time they go into the universities to go and check whatever is happening with the infrastructure and what have you and stuff, what reports do they bring back? What reports do they take back? They say everything is okay. You say everything is okay.
That is an assumption. Have you seen any of our reports?
Where are those
Have
reports?
you seen many universities courses that are not accredited?
Where are those reports?
Go to the NUC, you get the reports. Look at the list. When the NUC publishes list of accredited courses, don't you see legion of courses? Even there was a time the law program in UI was not accredited. I mean, we don't say that things are okay. I've been on accreditation to many universities, and some of the courses were given partial accreditation, not full accreditation, because we think that what you need to fully run these courses are just not there. So it's not correct, that statement that we always say, it's not true. Let NHS publish. Then, of course, that's why I've always been arguing that you have set up visitation panel. The federal government was forced, as part of this reason why we're going on strike, to set up visitation panel. It's supposed to be set up every five years or so. You will never set it up for decades. Set it up. Now you have the report. You have refused to release the government-wide paper on any of them. Now that have you decided to implement any of the findings of those visitation panel? If you see the visitation panel, you will see how many university administrators will be indicted. Because ASU is not also in support of some of the things that are going on within the university. See, it's not we say government. It's not government. In any case, you also miss the point. You think that everything about universities is ASU. ASU is about the terms and conditions of service of university lecturers. We have the committee of vice chancellors, the committee of pro-chancellors, all of those organizations. These are the big men who are supposed to relate with government in terms of the resources that they need, in terms of the infrastructure that is in place and how they are supposed to be managed. You see ASU visible all the time because ASU is the one who is always fighting, for the welfare of the academic staff.
All these officers we are mentioning brought from outside, are they not elevated
No,
from
that
ASU?
is not ASU's responsibility.
You understand?
Is it not because ASU is challenging them that we are saying government set up visitation panel? Let all these our members who are misbehaving, put them, call them out, and so that we can return sanity to the system. So that's why I'm saying we are not just talking about government. We are even looking inward. We are saying government, things are going wrong. Investigate this thing. You reluctantly send investigation, then you say, what about it? You refuse to act on the findings of those panels. So that's why those things are not on the table. So there are so many things. You also talk about tuition fees. It's true, we are considering the situation of educational system because we look at the statistics every day. You understand? We have private universities that double the number of public universities. Yet, all of them put together because of high school fees are only able to account for only 5%. In other words, 95% of people who are in university today can afford private university simply because of the funds. Otherwise, it's not as if private universities are not they don't have spaces. They are still doing jams even now that we are on strike. How many children are you seeing rushing to it is an opportunity for them. By now, we should not be crying and say schools are closed. Only those who are still in school, who are caught up with the strike, should have problem. Those who are now going to enter the university, let all of them go to the private universities if they can afford it now. Okay. Then secondly, let the government introduce fees and see whether it's ASU that will react or students.
Okay, but let me.
So why are they not introducing fees?
The third fund account. How is the money spent?
The money?
Yes.
It's also a government organization. Yes, ASU is not in charge of third fund. ASU does not employ the people who work or who manage the third fund.
But because it concerns ASU.
Of course, that is always the problem. ASU gives a suggestion on how, for instance, in this particular strike, we say if you want to fund education, impose the tax on communication. Government is going to impose that tax without even negotiating with us, but because it says yes, it's a good idea. They take the idea and then they dismiss us. So it's not as if what we are saying is, and this thing is not about ASU. It's just that in this particular case, we are able to sustain strike for a long time. Look at what is happening to the other unions. Do you know why they call off the strike? They call off the strike because over 200 of their members are dead. And they said there was pressure from their members that they would rather manage what they are earning than to continue to die of starvation and so. And ASU has made that point that government is using starvation, to mess up what is supposed to be a collective bargaining process because they have an upper hand.
Okay, there's one.
You understand this matter?
There's one question I would really love to ask you again.
Yes.
Because we've been talking about government, we've been talking about ASU. We have not said anything about the students. Now, I want to ask about the students.
Yes.
Chike, please, let me crave
your
indulgence.
ahead.
Let me crave your indulgence.
Please go on.
Go ahead.
Yes. Does ASU ever consider the implication of strikes on students? I am asking that question based on an informed knowledge of what happens out there.
Yes.
A student is expected to graduate at the most if he wants to be employed in any of the highbrow establishments. He is expected to graduate at the age of 22, and go for service at the age of 23, he graduates, because most of the employers will tell you anybody above 25 should not apply.
Yes.
So they put a ceiling.
I went through that process.
Now,
yes.
if ASU goes on strike, children who were supposed to have graduated.
I did start my career as a lecturer.
Good.
Uh-huh.
So I mean, that's why I'm asking. Does ASU ever consider?
Let me tell you, it is going to strike or going on strike is the worst thing that happens to an academic. It's the worst thing. That's why you see when we're going to go on strike, we didn't say we are going on indefinite strike. We're doing rollover strike. That okay, let's say we go for strike for 2 weeks. Let's say we go to strike for 1 month to see if government will respond appropriately. We don't want to go to strike. Then you also make that mistake. Majority of our children are in public universities, so we are affected in two ways. We are victims of the strike that we are on, and our children are also victims of the same strike. You understand? So it's not something that we take very lightly. And then, do you know the fulfillment I get from that? And that's why we can afford to be taken for granted. You know, because we do a lot of multitasking in order to be able to augment. We subsidize our job in the university.
But you do agree that these strikes destroy lives of
we
students.
are not even happy. It destroys our life. That's why I'm not saying
but
it destroys
you do agree.
It's not destroy the life of students only. It destroys the life of students who are our children. It destroys the love of our members who have died in this strike.
Prof,
yes.
I am cross-examining you like a lawyer. You do agree that it destroys the lives of students.
It's not only students.
No.
Because you must recognize students have identity,
we will go
which
to that.
includes children who are students of lecturers.
We have not gone to those ones. I want you to answer this question. You do agree that strikes destroy the lives of our students?
Of course.
Beautiful. That's the end of it.
It's not only students. It destroys the lives of lecturers as well. Do you know how many of our colleagues who cannot meet up their medical requirements because they are on strike? Do you know how many of them who have gone borrowing, who have suffered all kinds of indignities?
But is that true? Is that true?
That
somebody was saying one of the reasons why ASU can prolong the strike this long is because majority of them have employment in the private universities.
Why am I here every week?
Dear listener,
I've been teaching in the university for about 15 years.
Yes.
I've not been employed in any university to teach.
You are an exception. I know my brother.
You understand?
Okay. My brother is an exception. You ask
what percentage, then how many of our members can those universities absorb?
Let's get some feedback from our listeners.
As ad hoc, to cover some.
To cover up,
yes, it's not
side
like
hustle.
It's not like that's the job is there for everybody to add to what you're already earning.
At this point, the struggle continues for ASU. Is victory certain? Who is to be blamed? And what is the fate of the Nigerian student? You can join the discussion 0705 5000 949 and 0809 7000 949. For those in diaspora, you can call this number +234 906 2000 949. Hello, good morning. Okay.
We're not enjoying the strike at all.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, CHIKE.
Your name and where you're calling from?
Barrister, good morning. I'm Prof. Good morning. This is
good
okay.
morning.
Okay.
Barrister, I think you are being a bit one-sided on the issue of this ASU. I think we should look at it broadly. Like Prof said, Barrister, there are a lot of the lecturers, many a million of them that have their children in the public school. So it's actually affecting everybody. Now, CHIKE, will this really work? That's where I will now appeal to us, like Barrister just said. Apart from the strike, Prof, they should also look at other means. Are there other options that we can use? Because the strike doesn't seem to be working. Good morning.
All right, good morning, okay. Okay. 0705 5000 949 and 0809 7949 +234 906 2000 949. Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Your name and where you're calling from?
My name is Adetunbi. I'm calling you from University of Ibadan.
Okay, good morning.
Can I go on?
Go on, please.
Yeah, I've listened to the conversation very well. I'm sorry, I don't know the name of the lawyer there, but there's one thing that we keep on saying is ASU understanding the damage the strike is causing. But I want to ask the question, is government also thinking of what damage the strike is causing to the society? Government should also think of it. There are procedures when you want to go on strike. You give warning strike, you will have dialogue, you will discuss. This kind of dialogue and discussion and giving notice is for government to respond accordingly. And when you are not having response, then you will now have to go to the other stage of the strike. It is not a good thing for us to have strike. And that's why also we not start strike almost immediately. They will have explored different means before they will now begin the strike. So government in their own hand should look at what is the strike causing to the society, not saying that it's also looking at what is the danger the strike is causing. We also have even ASU members that are affected because they also want to graduate as PhD holders, but they cannot because there is strike. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
I quite agree with you. I am not the devil's advocate here. I will never hold forth for government. We know that government is not right. It is not what is happening in Nigeria is an aberration. It's an absurdity. You know, I don't know what other word to use. It should not be like this.
Okay.
But I am looking at ASU to be its brother's keeper.
And we are looking at Nigerians to respond by reacting to government behavior, but they are not.
Hello,
no,
good morning.
Nigerians are reacting.
Okay.
So why have they not forced their government to do the right thing?
Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Your name and where you're calling from?
Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning. Your name?
Yeah, my name is Pastor Yokomi Olumide.
Okay, where are you calling from?
Yeah, I'm calling from Ayugun on your side.
All right, let's have your thoughts quickly.
Yeah, I want to appreciate baristas so much. I'm one of his fans. But these days, I totally disagree with barista. The reason is that, I disagree with him. I love barista so much with his own analysis, the way he presents things. But this time around, I want to tell you, look at all these students. They soon become lecturer one day, most of them. It is better for the house to fight the battle now because of them. It is quite unfortunate if you see somebody as a man that cannot meet up his own responsibility at home. It is not right. Our government should do the needful. They should do the right thing. I think God will bless in Jesus' name.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
All right, let's go on this break. When we come back, the discussion continues. Stay tuned. Don't go away.
Who is this one? Why are all these women always like this? What sort of nonsense is this? See, I will hit you if you don't.
Oga, will you keep quiet? Yes, I mean it. Keep quiet. Why are you transferring aggression on these innocent street sweepers? People paid very little by the government to sweep the streets, hustling people, doing menial jobs to make life easy for you and I, people that we should be hailing and pampering. Or don't you know it takes some level of commitment to do this kind of job? Some motorists drive like they want to break their legs. Some bikes will almost climb their heads. And keke drivers act as if they are invisible. You people should fear God, though. Stop disrespecting our road sweepers. Once you sight them from afar, slow down and drive responsibly. In fact, it's not out of place if we can be generous to them. Do you know any sweeper in your neighborhood that deserves to be specially appreciated? Send such sweeper's name, locality, and picture to 0906 2000 949. 0906 2000 949. 32 FM is beseeching us. Let's protect the sweepers.
All right, welcome back. The last lap of the podium. Okay, phone lines are buzzing. We'll still pick your calls and we'll still talk from here. Let's look at this. Prof, for 7 months now, 7 months, February to date, 14th of September will make it 7 months precisely.
Absolutely.
Have you been coping without salaries from the federal government?
It has been extremely challenging.
Okay.
You have to look for ways and means of getting yourself engaged so you can feed your family.
Okay.
Otherwise, you can't afford to get your family hungry. If they fall sick, it's going to be a huge challenge. And a lot of our colleagues are in very dire straits. They are unable to meet up with their requirements, especially those who, remember, there are a lot of elderly people within the university system.
Yes,
Most
yes.
very senior professors. It takes a long time before you attain those positions.
So
we have
what
people
is ASU looking at now? Because
they have, well, some of them are members of cooperatives.
Yeah.
And I see some of the cooperatives offering loans so they'll be able to
Just to survive.
They also have I think a welfare program. Yesterday or a few days ago, I saw them sending out messages that those who are part of that program can also access some kind of soft loan to support their family.
Let's listen to the ASU president again on no work, no pay. The federal government is saying you're not going to collect salaries for the months you've not worked. But let's hear Professor Emmanuel Oshedeke.
Very simple. It's balanced. So that's our major response. You see, I watched the minister today, and I thought that as a minister of education and as a government, that he will come to the table to see how to resolve the issue in the Nigerian university system. We are thinking of threats. By our academic standard, by our standard, we are not afraid of threats. Even during the military era, we're not afraid of threats. We will fight for the Nigerian education system to be such that we will start having foreign students coming to Nigeria, foreign lecturers coming to Nigeria as Nigerian students are going outside and Nigerian lecturers are good. That is what we want. Not coming to talk on studio with no work, no pay. So what? Let me tell you about the academics. As academic, go and look at my condition of service. I have 3 lines of work: teaching, research, and community service. All we have done is to stop teaching. So it's not as if we stop research and community service. That is 2. 3, when we resume, we are going to start from where we stopped long ago. We are going to start there and bring up to the present and continue. So all the work we have not done in the past, we are going to sacrifice our lead in the next 2 or 3 years to meet up those periods to ensure that the students get quality education. When the government wants to close down the system, it's left to them. I am really surprised that the Minister of Education, who in the past was well quoted in the dailies, he had a column in one of the newspaper where he actually supported what we are doing, that Nigerian University is not going, and it's come here to threaten us with issue of no work, no pay. So what? If Nigerian University will be better off, if what he said will ensure that Nigerian University will be better off, so be it. 2, I expect to have come here to have quoted one or show evidence that they have agreed on one of the 7 items we are talking about. They didn't mention on one item for which they are giving us anything that you can take to our member that can change Nigerian education system. He didn't talk about no work, no pay, about going to court. We are really not bothered. We have done this over since 1980 something till now, and we will not be bothered. If they want to kill the system, let them kill it. If the children in Nigerian university, they will not be saying what we are saying now on the media.
All right, Barrister, yes. Quickly, you want to react to that?
I want to. You see, from what the prof said, they are aware that the federal government and its so-called cohorts, I'm sorry I'm using that for them, don't have their children in the universities. So whose children are there? Our children. And if we kill it, it is we who will bear the brunt. But you see, you know what ASU did that really pained me is you went to a negotiating table with the 2009 agreement, which is why you embarked on the strike. One would have expected that, well, if there are concessions, because negotiations are give and take, like Prof said, if there are concessions with respect to the 2009 agreement, then let ASU call off its strike. Since 1974, has ASU ever gone on strike and not collect the salaries, of salary arrears? It has never, go and check the records, it has never happened. So I am angry because ASU now made that an issue for resumption. What should have happened is, it was the 2009 agreement that you went on strike for. Call off the strike, go back into the university, and then internally work for the payment of your arrears. It is unconscionable for ASU to come into the open and be asking the federal government to violate an extant law just to satisfy it. It shouldn't be. Because you are saying that the government is not obeying some laws, and at the same time, you are saying the government should disobey a law to satisfy you. That is, to me, approbating and reprobating at the same time.
So you're saying ASU shouldn't be paid for the months they down their tools, right?
Look, let me tell you, the procedure has always been they will be paid. I said since 1974, go and check if there is any strike they have embarked upon that they were not paid.
They paid them arrears,
They should not.
But the government is saying no work, no pay.
No, let me tell you.
Is that a threat?
Let me tell you. The government will always say that. But ASU should not have used it as another, basis to continue the strike.
Prof,
let them go back into the university.
Is just one perspective of the situation, which is government's perspective. I suspect that Barrister is standing for the government. Now, let me go to the point. See, ASU is not the one making that an issue. It is the government that's making that an issue. If you look at our release, there's no agreement on any of the issues yet. Government said we have agreed on everything, and that what is left is payment of arrears of salary. That is not true. Now, you can go to the papers, you see the publication made by the Brits Committee themselves in several national dailies that many of the claims that the ministers were making were false. Now, first of all, you need to know why we have problems. We are dealing with irresponsible government officials.
I agree.
Who cannot be trusted, who will not keep to their words. Now, 2 agreements, one done before the strike that was not addressed, nothing was done about, and then the one that now came out of the negotiation under the strike, because government came again and said we are going to restart the negotiation process, and ASU originally we didn't want to, but it eventually won. Now let's go to the international practice in terms of strike, and I will read the provision of the ILO concerning salary deduction for days of strike, and that they give rise to no objection from the point of view of freedom of association principles. Now, section 656 says, obliging the employer to pay wages in respect of strike days in cases where the employer is declared responsible for the strike, apart from potentially disrupting the balance in industrial relation, proving costly for the employer, raises problems of conformity with the principle of freedom of association, as such payment should be neither required nor prohibited. It should consequently be a matter for resolution between the parties. Section 658 says, imposing sanctions on unions for leading a legitimate strike is a grave violation of the principles of freedom of association.
That's according to the ILO.
According to the ILO, which is which Nigeria is.
So the government has violated the rules.
He can tell us if
Prof, is the federal government violating the rules according to the ILO?
You understand? You see, this thing is neither here nor. That's why he admitted.
Let's just pick 2 more calls.
The government has to end up paying our salaries. We don't like it. You understand?
Hello. Kindly turn down the volume on your radio, or we have to let you go.
Hello.
Turn down the volume on your radio.
Good morning, sir.
Okay, your name and where you're calling from. Make it brief.
I'm Oluwasegun from Challenge Ibadan.
All right, make it brief.
I just want to partake in the program.
Go ahead, please.
The issue on ground has been heard from the barrister and the professor. Yeah. You see, it seems that if the government itself is not considering the plight of the students, let us even for a time being suspend the situation of the lecturers. Because whether they like it or not, after the payment, they will come back to make room for what the students have lost. The barrister was asking that have they not been paid in the past? Let's ask him again. Have the lecturers not worked for the money, for the lost time of the students in the past? That is point number 1. Point number 2, I think there should be a law in this country which the barrister himself can propose to the National Assembly. Every minister, most especially ministers of education, that has his or her work or children in the universities outside the country, they should be penalized. You call somebody a minister of education in the country and is going to UK or US to celebrate the graduation of his or her children. How do you want the education in that country to progress? You see, we should balance these things when we are discussing issues like this. If the government is even interested in the plight of the students for almost 7 months now, and they are happy these people are at home.
All right, I have to let you go now. Thank you for your submission. Thank you.
The other day,
Sorry, I just have to let you go, Shegun Fumi from Challenge.
No. Your submissions were excellent, and I
very,
agree
very
with
lovely.
You. I agree
just
with you.
for the sake of time.
Yes.
For the sake of time.
Nobody who is holding public office should be allowed by law to have his children schooling abroad. Nobody holding public office should be allowed by law to take medical or medication abroad. You see, we have a government that is most irresponsible. I agree with you, my brother.
Prof, your final thoughts.
My final thought is that we are talking about education because ASU is on strike. Go to a public hospital and see whether you have confidence in the kind of treatment that you get in those places. And that's why medical doctors are often also on strike. All these key technical expertise, it seems that government has no value for skills. And our high-ended skilled personnel are often exported because of this. There's high rates of brain drain. And in this interval, I can tell you the number of my students, postgraduate students, who have secured scholarship and have traveled out. Will they come back to say they want to teach, return to Nigeria to teach in this environment? In many countries, you even sponsor your people to go abroad to acquire special skills so that they can come and beef off the economy and the manpower needs of our country.
We have to go. Thank you all for being there this morning on this edition of The Podium. The Podium returns next week. Who will be my guest next week? The former Algon chairman in Oyo State, Abbas Aleshinloye. We shall be discussing next week with Prof and Barrister Professor Remi Ayede. Thank you for featuring. I'm Barrister Yomi Ogulola. Thank you for coming this Saturday.
It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, we'll see you next week again.
All right, we commiserate with the CEO of 32 FM as his father embarks on a final journey today in Ife. We pray to God to give the family the fortitude to bear the loss. That's Tunji Abioye, the CEO, laying his father to rest today.
Please accept our condolences.
All right, bye for now and have a wonderful weekend.
Isiza